So we will start. So first of all, ecology and environment. How many of you can differentiate ecology and environment? Please raise your hand. So what's the difference between ecology and environment? Yeah, you can read this. Ecology means it's the study. I mean, what about pathology? What do you mean by pathology? Study of diseases. What is nephrology? Nephrology. Kidney. Ophthalmology. So these are all, ology means like something study, right? So ecology is also study, the scientific study of living organisms and their interactions with one another. Okay, there is one ecosystem, in that there are different types of living organisms. They mutually interact with one another. So that kind of a study within an ecosystem, the relationship of organisms within an ecosystem, their interaction, that study is known as ecology. And what about environment? Environment refers to the totality of living and non-living components. It's about the space. Okay, like ecology is about the interaction, the study about interaction. Environment is about the total space where this ecosystem exists. Then environment encompasses both biotic and abiotic components. What are the biotic community? Like you know about food chain, food web, trophic levels, etc. Okay, what is food chain? Like I eat something, like something eats me, like that. Okay, that chain goes on. Like grass is eaten by grasshopper, grasshopper is like eaten by lizard, lizard is eaten by snake, like that it goes. So that kind of a community within a food chain or food web, that is known as biotic community. In that we can see that there are autotrophs or producers, I mean green plants, then heterotrophs, the vegetarian consumers, then there are carnivores, then there are saprotrophs. Saprotrophs are actually decomposers, like bacteria, fungi, etc., which feed on the dead and decayed matter. So these are the components of environment, that biotic community, this is biotic community, and there are abiotic community like atmosphere, troposphere, soil, etc. are like abiotic community. Okay. Yeah, on the food chain, these biotic community occupy on diverse trophic levels. We see that pyramidal structure and all. Okay. Yeah. For example, all autotrophs are producers. They will be living at the like bottom layer of the trophic level, and when we proceed to the higher level, we can see the other members like heterotrophs, carnivores, etc. Then abiotic components. Abiotic components, matlab, the non-living part of the environment is known as like abiotic component or physical like component. We can see that atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, etc. are non-living components of the environment. I mean, they are the abiotic like environment. Then, so when we tell about an environment, we precisely talk about some ecosystems. For example, a pond ecosystem or a lake ecosystem, or maybe a forest or a desert ecosystem. So when these are individual ecosystems, and we study about that space, that is known as environment. And when we study the interactions between organisms within that environment, that is ecology. And when we aggregate all the ecosystems, pond, lake, desert, grassland, whatever, when we aggregate everything, that includes, like, that is known as biosphere. Okay, that includes even the atmosphere, troposphere, lithosphere, even the organisms, even the like terrestrial soil, everything, it's included under biosphere. The term biosphere is also used by scientists to define the zone of life, like where life exists. That entire thing is known as biosphere. It is the aggregation of all the ecosystems. Then levels of organisms in ecology. From here you listen more attentively, because from every slides there is a possibility of getting questions. Okay, I mean, this kind of knowledge from the base is essential to solve and or eliminate statements. Organism, population, community, ecosystem, biome, biosphere. We'll define everything. What is an organism? Individual species, including creatures like dog. Say, for example, dog is an organism. When there is an aggregation of dogs, maybe 10 dogs is there, that is known as a population of that dog. Okay, then a few number of dogs are there, a few number of cats are there, they are living in the same space, maybe a backyard of our house. Okay, that is known as community. Okay, a single species, its few members are there, means that's a population. When two different populations are there, I mean two different species populations are there, that is known as community. So population, a collection of creatures from the same species living in the same region. Whereas a species is a group of genetically linked individuals that can breed to generate fruitful offspring. These kind of statements can come in exam. For example, dogs and cats cannot interbreed and produce offsprings. Okay, if that is the case, like Dog is a single species, cat is a single species. Dogs can interbreed and generate new offsprings, but dogs and cat cannot mate each other. So these are, that is the reason why we classify them into different species. Okay, if you guys like, if one particular species, it's about to if they can interact and produce new offsprings, then that both organisms will be classified under a single species. If they cannot mate each other and produce new offsprings, they will be termed as each different species. Okay, so cat is a different species, dog is a different species. Then community, as I told, two types of populations, they are interacting, that is known as a community. So this is a population or a community? Population, that is a community. Fine, you are getting right, October batch also. So ecosystem, the living organisms, I mean all the populations plus the non-living features of the environment is known as ecosystem. We can see that if we want to say the components of this ecosystem, we have to tell from the sunlight, moisture, like all the components like trees, habitat, insects, plants, animals, water, everything. Okay, the entire living and non-living organisms or the features in a particular system of life is known as ecosystem. Then what is a biome? What is a biome? A biome is a biogeographical unit. It's like when we say about a biome, we are not talking about a particular site. Okay, if I am talking about a particular pond, that is an ecosystem. Okay, beside the pond there is a forest. Okay, and at the end of the forest there is a desert. Okay, like after the forest boundary there is a desert. So we are, for example, we are taking a particular latitude. Okay, in that latitude we can see different kinds of ecosystems, different varieties of ecosystem. Some may be dry, some may be wet, some may be extreme. Okay, so we are aggregating all the ecosystems of that a particular latitude or a particular region or a particular biogeographical region. That is known as a biome. For example, a grassland, like if we see like African area, when we see country to country, most of the countries will be having these grasslands. Okay, so it's an entire area filled with grassland. When we move from the equatorial region to the polar region, we can see there is tundra. Tundra means the extreme climate, the snow covered regions. Okay, there will be very few number of trees, very few number of animals or other species. Okay, so that's a biome. Okay, that's a norm of that particular latitude or that particular large area of space. So we can see grassland is there, that's a particular biome. Tropical forest, that is a particular biome. Desert is a biome. Then this is tropical area. Then temperate. See, this is a like one latitude. In that latitude we can see tropical forest, then grasslands, then desert. For example, if we take a single latitude, we can see that there are African countries with the grasslands. There are the countries in the like Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. Okay, where there will be like tropical forest present. Okay, so similar will be the case. It's about a huge space, like a latitude, a vast amount of space that will be having different biomes. Tropical forest is a biome, grassland and deserts are biomes. So we are moving from tropics or equatorial region to the polar region. Then we can see the temperate region. Okay, temperate region we can see like the Mediterranean kind of region and all. Okay, from the 30-degree region and above. Okay, temperate region. There also we can see some kind of grasslands. Then above we are seeing like boreal forest. Boreal forest are the areas where trees like pine trees, coniferous trees will be present. Okay, so that's a particular kind of biome. We cannot find teak or like other kind of coconut trees or something like in that area. Okay, that biome will be having their own kind of tree species. So pine, coniferous kind of trees. When we move from tropics to polar region, so even that won't be found in tundra because that is so extreme. Okay, it will be snow covered most of the time of the year. So that is tundra biome. So these are known as biomes. It's an aggregation of ecosystem of a particular wide biogeographical space. And there can be statements like this: there are no two biomes that are alike. Okay, no two biomes will be alike. Like tropical forest will be denominated discriminated from the grasslands with the number of trees, varieties of trees. Grasslands will be having maybe very few trees and majority like grasses. Deserts will be having xerophytic plants, okay, which are pricky with that kind of needle-like structure and all. So no two biomes will be alike. Then biosphere. Then we are taking all these biomes, okay, we moved from tropical region or the equatorial region to the polar region to see from tropical rainforest to tundra kind of biome. We are taking the entire biome together. I mean, in the earth, wherever life exists, the entire thing is known as, we are aggregating everything and to form the biosphere. Biosphere refers to the portion of the planet that contains living beings. Okay, so biosphere contains, like if we take the components of biosphere, oceans are there, the kind of living beings in the ocean is a part of biosphere, the kind of like terrestrial area where we live, that is a part of biosphere, the atmosphere, hydrosphere, everything is part of the biosphere. So the atmosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere are all included in the biosphere. Then we are moving to the trophic level. Okay, so this is the trophic level. When we see, we know that like this is a food chain. Okay, plants are eaten by small kind of organisms, they are eaten by fish, fishes is eaten by turtles. Okay, so this is a food chain, right? So when we are representing this food chain in a graphical form, that is like ecological pyramid. Okay, so in the ecological pyramid, the bottom level we can see the primary producers, okay, the green plants and all. In the second level we can see the herbivores, okay, which eat these green plants. Then we can see carnivores. These are primary carnivores, I mean like the frogs kind of things, like fishes which eat the small fishes and all, these are primary carnivores. Then tertiary carnivores means those carnivores which eat these carnivores. Okay, snake which eat the frog is a secondary carnivore. So this kind of thing. Then the vulture or eagle which eat the snake is known as like apex predators, okay, or the top consumers. So this is the thing, keep this thing in mind. So these are basic things. Okay, why I am telling is this because we are having October batch students as well. So now we are going to classify the ecosystem. We can have natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem. Natural ecosystem, we have land ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. These are self-explanatory. Okay, I am not elaborating. Land ecosystem, we have forest, grassland, desert ecosystem. Then aquatic ecosystem, we have pond, ocean, estuarine ecosystem, etc. Like we have studied about deltas and estuaries. Okay, so these are also ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem. Then artificial ecosystem means like our agricultural field. Okay, where there are lives like frogs, snakes are also there in like our agricultural field. So that's a part of artificial ecosystem because we are creating that field. Now aquatic ecosystem. Like in aquatic ecosystem, we can classify this as freshwater, brackish water and marine ecosystem. Freshwater ecosystem, ponds and lakes and rivers. Brackish water means estuarians and those ecosystems which are adjoining the seas. That is brackish water ecosystem. Then man-made ecosystem, that's also part of brackish ecosystem. We construct artificial ponds and all. Okay. Then marine ecosystem, like oceans, that's marine ecosystem. Now we are coming to some technicalities. Like there are like some factors or phenomena called homeostasis. For example, when we feel like sick, when we feel cold, our body shivers. Okay, you know why we shiver? When we shiver, our body temperature rises. Okay, so at that time, to support our body from that extreme cold or that like cool sensation, we are like shivering. And when we feel extreme heat, our body sweats. Okay, these are part of the mechanism of our body to create a balance so that we can live comfortably. So in the animal world also we can see such phenomena. So such things which are such activities which are done by the animals or their bodies to help them sustain peacefully or live comfortably in an ecosystem is known as homeostasis. So you see, despite shifting external environmental variables that tend to upset the organism's homeostasis. Homeostasis is nothing like but the internal balancing of the body. Okay, that is homeostasis. So when there is something, when that equilibrium is unbalanced due to external conditions like extreme heat or extreme cold, animal body do some activities so that that balance is regained. So that is known as this homeostasis and its adjustments. We'll see through an example. At that time you will be more clear. For example, we can see bears hibernate. Okay, in winter times when the availability of food is very less. Okay, bears they'll do is that they'll enter some caves and they'll move into a deep sleep. Okay, so that their energy won't be wasted. If they are moving around in search of food means they have to spend a lot of energy. Okay, but in order to compensate for that lost energy, they are unable to find food. Okay, so they will enter some cave and enter into a winter sleep. That is known as hibernation. It's a part of the bear mechanism to save energy and help them overcome the scorching winter. So that's an example of homeostasis. Another is known as osmoregulation. For example, there are some fishes which live both in freshwater and in marine environment. Okay, so there needs some adjustments, like when the marine fish is entering the freshwater, or when the freshwater fish is entering the marine environment, their body needs to make some adjustment. Otherwise, what will happen is that in marine environment, their body fluids will be having this entry of salt. Okay, in freshwater this is absent. So if they have to live peacefully, if they have to breathe through their gills and all, they need to make some arrangements within their body. They'll make some modifications, like they'll prevent the excess salt from entering their body. If some fish, for example salmon, regulates the osmosis. How many of you know about osmosis? Osmosis matlab it's like there are if we put some dry fruits in water, we can see that it swells. Okay, so similarly, when we put a dry fruit in some brine solution or some salt solution, we can see that it shrinks. So this kind of adjustment is made by the fishes as well. So it will prevent, when a freshwater, if that fish is predominantly living in a freshwater environment and then it's suddenly entering into a marine environment, what they will do is actually they will modify, or they will partially close their gills so that this excess salt is not entering their body. Okay, this is the osmotic regulation. So it's an also example of homeostasis. Okay, so homeostasis is nothing but maintaining the internal equilibrium within a body so that it can comfortably exist in that particular ecosystem. There are two important examples for homeostasis. One is hibernation in case of these terrestrial animals like bears and all, and other is osmoregulations in the case of aquatic organisms.